Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in to another episode of K8MRD Radio Stuff. Today, we're going to be putting together the DX Commander Expedition antenna, so stay tuned. So the first thing I did was read the manual a couple times. You go to DX Commander's website and you can download this. There's also a link to download a spreadsheet in there because I wanted to calculate the length for my frequencies. He's got a nice spreadsheet on there that you can open up. You just type in whatever frequencies you want and it'll tell you the length in meters and centimeters. We're going to be doing all of this in metric, thank God. Basically, I'm going to go for 40 right in the middle. I'm an extra, so I'm just going to put everything right in the middle for 40, 20, and 17. On 15 meters, I put the center at 21,225. Gonna run out in the yard, gonna cut the wire, and start putting everything together, so stick with us. All right, so we're out in the yard. I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna lengthen these wires here. I've got a little sawhorse, and this is the end of the tape measure that I just looped through there. Got a clamp, and just kind of clamped everything down together just so I can keep it all the same length. And then I've got this 100-foot tape measure from Harbor Freight. And there's the wire. We're just gonna roll it back. I'm gonna cut this a little long intentionally. I got some tape here that I marked, so I'm gonna tape around the wire so I remember which one is which. I got a label maker at work. I'll when I finish it, I'll actually put like nice labels on it. Callum said I think 11.06 meters. I'm gonna cut this for 11.2 because I'm gonna do the 15 meter fold back, and I want to have plenty of room, plenty of extra wire to trim it. Always cut your antennas, freaking bugs. Always cut your antennas long. You can always make them shorter. It's a lot easier to make them longer. One cut. Let's hope we don't screw it up. And I'm going to take this tape and just put it on the wire. So now I know that's for 40. And then we rinse and repeat. So now going for 20 meters, we're going to cut this for 5.291 meters is really the actual length. So I'm going to go 5.2 meters, or excuse me, 5.3 meters. Same deal here. Mark this as 20 meters. Next. And lastly, for 17 meters, I want 4.14 meters. 4.15 will work. And that's it. 10 meters I'm going to cut later. I just want to get these three going first. And we got to make the radials, of which I need to cut a bunch of those. I need to cut a bunch of 3.5 meter radials. So we should probably cut a crap ton of those too. All right, so now we have our elements cut. Now we're gonna make a crap ton of radials, and we're just gonna make the same length radial. So in the directions, the wire in your starter kit will give you around 80 meters of spare wire after you have built your elements. Use this to build at least 20 3.5 meter radials in 5 bunches of 4 radials. So I'm just going to cut one for 3.5 meters, and then I'm just going to match them all and do it 20 times. So here we go. So let's see, 3.5 meters. There's one. Perfect. So there's 20 radials. All said and done, real time, probably have about a half hour, 40 minutes into cutting all these, so wow, big deal. So now that we've got all the wire cut, the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to crimp and solder the connectors on to the 3 radiating elements. And then I am going to put a hose clamp on the mast itself. I'll show you that. And then I'm going to take everything outside and we're going to play with the doingy and the clips just to kind of see how everything fits. Because I kind of only want to do this once. I don't want to screw it up. So that's my method of thinking. You know, kind of just do one step at a time, test it. Then we'll worry about the radials and tuning and all that stuff. I just want to see how all of this fits together so I can kind of get a better grasp around it. So let's solder some stuff. All right, we got our trusty, crappy Harbor Freight wire strippers here. Give that a good old crimp. Is she flowing? Oh, she a flowing nice. See, that's not too shabby. So pretty tough so far, right? Each one of these is taking about 1.5 minutes to strip, crimp, and solder. And then we have our radiating elements. They are ready. Just like that, haha. Before we go outside, there's just a couple things we need to do. We need to add our SO239 to our, this is the ground plate where all your radials screw into. We need to put some rubber hosing on our clamp because this is what's actually going to go when these stack on top of one another. That's going to keep that from rising up when you have tension on the wire. So we're going to unscrew, and you've got 3 different things on here. You got a little lock washer and another washer and a nut. Slide it in backwards. And we'll just tighten that down. So the way this goes on, we unscrew the bottom of the mast, we insert, we screw back on. And then this is actually going to slide over the top, like such, to get you that look. The next thing is this hose clamp is going to go on top of there, like I said, to prevent, once you have tension on the wires, the radiating elements, that's going to want to raise that up. So that's what's going to keep that down. So we're going to unscrew this all the way. We're going to stick our tubing in here. Some guys will heat this. I find just brute strength usually is enough to work. But you don't want to put it all the way in. You want to leave some bit. So I'm going to back that out a little bit. Not rocket appliances for now. And hey, we didn't screw it up. Slide this down so she's on there. Then we tighten her. Get some good downward pressure. And just tighten her down. Don't over wrench it now. We also need to install 3 of the bolts, washers, and wing nuts into these threaded holes here to actually attach our radiating elements. So these are threaded, which is a nice touch. So we're just going to screw these all in here. And a washer and a wing nut. And a washer and a wing nut, a washer and a wing nut. Everybody needs a washer and a wing nut. I'm also going to go ahead and add or connect the actual feed point here with another washer and a wing nut. I think I'll put this one in this way though, because I'm going to come in from the bottom with it. That's the fun of antenna building. You gotta experiment. Callum supplies us with all the parts, but it's still up to us. We're making this antenna pretty much 100%, other than just the fabrication of things. So that's how I got that. I suppose if you wanted to bring it up top, you can, but I think just this wire just kind of naturally wants to go there. So that's where I'm going to put it. And then this other one is where I'm going to hook the 10-meter one up. That's what he means by off the side, I think. So I'll go ahead and put that one in as well. I'm just going to put all these in while I'm here. Less chance of losing them. Remember also, guys, you only have to do this once. All of this assembly, because all this stuff is going to stay on there. The only thing you have to do is put the wires in when you go out and set the antenna up. All right. That is the finished product-ish. All right, so I took a day in between filming to just set this up and play with it, just to kind of wrap my head around it a bit. So I've got the mast extended all the way on a couple sawhorses and a chair courtesy of Harbor Freight. We're gonna put these guys on. We're gonna string up. I'm just gonna focus on the 40-meter element because that's what was really kind of throwing a curveball, just from reading the directions. I texted Callum and he actually said I did it right, so that's cool. So I'm gonna show you guys. The other two elements are pretty easy. I really haven't done anything with them yet other than just mock them up a little bit, but very crudely. So let's get into the next steps of this thing. So I've got both of these here. I'm just going to slide them on down the mast, both at the same time, and they're just going to stop when they stop. So this one stops here. This one goes down a few more. Actually, this one goes all the way down almost. So now let's take a look at running the 40-meter radiator up and then back down the antenna so we can get 40 and 15. Going back down the antenna with the wire loads it up for 15. So really easy. We're going to run it from the base here through these things, string it up, and I'll show you the end is kind of where the business section is, and I'll show you what we need to do for that. So it definitely does not matter which one of these you go into. So we're just going to pick any one at random, tighten it down, and then we're going to go that way. Feed our wire through a hole, and then through another hole. Another hole. You follow me, camera guy? All right, so here's how we run the wire up the pole and then back down. Inside the box of parts, there's a couple different sizes of tubing. You got a small one and there's a couple pieces of big one. You also have to cut a piece of the tubing for the hose clamps, so you actually have 3 different diameters. And what's going to happen is the wire is going to go through this, going towards the tip of the antenna, and then you're going to bring it back down. You're going to have a little loop off the very end, and then that little 15-meter part is going to come back down, and that's what's going to hold everything together. So let's do that. So we're going to take the bigger 2 guys. Obviously, the bigger one's going to go towards the base. This is the middle, and the small one's going to be at the very tip. And I'm just going to slide them on the tip of the antenna and bring them down. Now the first one, I'm going to put the wire through. And you want to pull it nice and tight and then bring it down as far as it'll go. So we kind of want to lock this in place with this hose. You don't want to put too much tension on it because then it'll tend to bow the mast. But I want to have it tight enough to where this wire stays taut. Also, make sure your sections are really nice and tight. You want to pull them and kind of twist them so they lock, because as you're sliding these down, the mast might want to collapse on you. For the second bit of tubing, this is the second from the end, so you give yourself some room in here to stick the wire through. I'm going to pull that taut. I'm going to leave it loose though, because we need to go up and then back down, and I'll show you how it all comes back together. Now for the tip, we're just going to fold this, make a loop, and it's easier to just stick the wire through here first and then stick the tip in. So a little bit of this should be sticking out, Callum says. And that's it. So now we have this loose bit of wire that's going to go back that way. So we snake this end of the wire back through the tubing and then slide this down. And now everything is locked in place. So that's the way she goes. So now for the doingy doingies. So the first thing we're going to do, tie a knot on one end and then slide this little barrel guy thing over. I'm not going to tie this one right now because I'm actually going to use some zip ties just to clamp this around the spreader plate temporarily. So that's there. These things are kind of a pain in the butt to get in, but it's kind of a good thing. No, that one went easy. So they just snap on. So now I've got my clip, and I'm actually going to hook this around the radiating element first. And I'll show you how I have that set up. I'm going to put the 20 meter element on now. So the 20 meter element doesn't go all the way up to this. It hangs down a little bit. So I'm just going to kind of guess as to where it's going to be. I've got a bit of extra stuff here, I know. I'm going to cut that off. And I'm just going to wrap some electrical tape around here to make a loop. I'm going to clip this in, and then I'm going to zip tie this so it stays taut. Shouldn't take much. And then put that in the doingy doingy. And I'm just going to pull that tight and wrap a zip tie around here. Wouldn't it be amazing if this was actually the right length just by happenstance? That's never going to happen, but so that's that. Pretty easy, right? And now we're going to do the exact same thing for 17 meters. So same idea as last time. Just going to make a loop, tape it up, because you just have to mock this up so you can actually, you know, set it up with the radials and things to tune it, and you're just kind of guessing where things are at. And again, clip the wire to it, and I'm just going to feed this through the spreader until it's tight and put a zip line on it, put a bird on it. Not pulling this too tight, but you do want to have some tension on it. And that's it. That's done. Give a couple gratuitous shots here, just showing the mock-up. And you can see all 3 radiators going down to the bottom. So now, let's solder some counterpoise wires. So I'm doing these in bunches of 4. You can do them in bunches of 5 if you want. I'm doing 5 bunches of 4. So we're just going to strip wire and solder. You want to make this a little bit longer wire because you have to twist them all together and then stick them in the yellow fork thingies. But this is pretty easy. So we've got 4 pretty much equal length wires, and then we're going to twist all of them together, insert into clippy thing, crimp, beautiful. And then we do that 4 more times. All right, so it's tuning day down the street from my house at Bloomer Park, and we're gonna string up the elements, get it up and see what where it's tuned at. Then we're gonna use Cal's, he's got a spreadsheet where you can type in the frequency and kind of where you're off, and it'll tell you how much to shorten or lengthen it. So hopefully we can get this thing perfect. So I found from doing this a couple times, I like to put the 17 and 20 meter radiators on before the 40 meter. I just like doing it that way. I like to keep a little bit of tension on it is really the reason before I put the 40 up. So I've got my doingies here. This is only probably 8 inches or so for the 20 meter element. The 17 meter is quite a few feet, probably 4 feet or so. So you don't need much. And I just have them temporarily. I don't know if you can see there's just a little pretzel knot there for testing, because you might have to move these up and down and stuff before I put a clip on there. And then the 40 meter is a little bit different. You got to go up and then back down. So I'll show you that. So the trick to the 40 meter element, you need these 3 different size hose tubing things. And you're going to I feed the wire through 2 of them initially. First is the fatter one, second is the middle one. We're going to leave this tiny little guy off for a minute. Put them in your pocket because you'll lose them. And then you're going to slide them up the mast. Keep some tension on the wire though. So this first fatter one is just going to hold the wire to the mast, and you don't string anything back through that one. It should go all the way down there. Okay. We can feed the other guy through the middle one and just kind of leave it there somewhere, because you're not gonna tighten it down yet. Then we take this little guy. Now, full disclosure, I've been messing around with this just so I could make a quality video. Callum says the wire should go out past this tip. Mine's resonant right here. So I actually took a red Sharpie and marked it. You can barely see it, but it's good enough. And that's where I know where to make the loop. So theoretically, every time I put this antenna up, it'll be in the exact same spot. This method kind of leaves it, there's a bit of margin for error every time you deploy this. So just by marking it, we'll see what happens. I've also found a little bit of spit helps this wire go through the tube a little easier. This tubing is just going to hold it on. Okay. And now here's that whole loading part, linear loading, as it will, that's going to get us onto 15 meters. We just run this slack back through this other tubing, and we're just going to run this guy all the way down. There we go. All right, so now that the antenna's up, I'm going to take some SWR readings. I'm going to write down where it's actually resonant, and then I'm going to plug that into the spreadsheet, and it'll tell me how much I need to lengthen or shorten the elements. So right now on 20 meters, my goal is 14,250. We're actually resonant on 13,620. So we've got to shorten that up a bit. And on 17, yeah, we're like 4 to 1 on 17 right now. My target frequency of 18,118. Let's see where we're actually resonant. Somewhere around 17,165. So we need to cut off a little bit of each. Full disclosure, this is the third batch of radiating elements that I've had to make to get this antenna right. Because I've learned, I initially started making them and I had the wires just hanging down. I would form a loop and there would be a bunch of extra wire hanging down. Well, that dramatically changes the SWR. Even when you cut it, it's not like a regular horizontal dipole where you can just fold it back. You do have to cut it. So I've made a few mistakes. This time I started with the end of the wire as the loop, and I'm just gonna use the calculator and cut it to whatever it is, make a new loop, and hopefully I won't have to do it again, because if I do, that ain't gonna work for me. So here's a pro tip that I discovered, because I do things the hard way. You're gonna be raising and lowering this mast a few times. It's a whole heck of a lot easier to unscrew the radials than have to redo them all, because when you lay this thing down, they're all gonna get into a big mess again. So very, very simple. Learn from my mistakes and just unscrew those and leave them there. Now we can drop the antenna. And it is absolutely stupid easy to take this thing down. Just take one stake out, keep tension on it, and lower it. This thing weighs almost nothing. All right, so we're gonna perform a little surgery here. What did I say? 22.5 centimeters. We gotta cut off. So that should be where the end of the antenna is now. I'm gonna give myself a little bit of room. And we're gonna cut it. All right, hook it back up to the doingy. Now we're gonna do the same thing for 17. So we need to cut off 21.3. I'm gonna call it 21. But I actually want to fold it back. That's really how I should have cut the other one. That way I have some tagline there, but that's okay. Theoretically, we should be golden after this. So the last step, to really just kind of tidy this up, we're going to add the heat shrink, the glue-lined heat shrink tubing. I took off the electrical tape here, and we're just going to add, I don't know, an inch or so. And this will keep everything together. So I want to leave enough to have a loop there. And then we're going to shrink her down. And that's it. So that's it, guys. That is how you build a DX Commander Expedition antenna. I'm going to go through the final results here. On 40 meters, 72125, we're looking at a 1.09 to 1 SWR. 20 meters, I actually cut a little short, and I knew it the second I did it. Still plenty fine. At 14.250, we're looking at a 1.52 to 1 SWR. On 17 meters, 18.118, I'm looking at straight up 1.1 to 1 SWR. 1.0 actually I'm seeing all the way up to about 1.33. It's weird the wind affects this much, but yeah, that's totally fantastic. And on 15 meters, we are looking at 21.325, about a 1.21, 1.23. So yeah, absolutely fantastic. Very impressed at the overall quality of this antenna. The wire really amazes me. It doesn't get tangled. It's very flexible. You kind of have to hold it to understand what I'm talking about, but this wire is, I can't believe I'm so impressed with just a wire, but this D10 stuff is tremendous. The mast is fantastic. All the hardware, everything is just really top notch. Callum, you did a fantastic job, buddy. Really impressed with this. And the next video that I'm going to do with this, we're going to be out in the field. I'll do a Parks on the Air activation. We'll see where we can get. So thanks for watching another episode of K&MRD Radio Stuff, and we'll see you on the next one, 73.